Hey Amazon selling enthusiast, it's Eric here. And if you're tired of the inventory management struggle, I've got a game changer for you. InventoryLab.com. Inventory Lab simplifies e-commerce, inventory management, integrates seamlessly with Amazon, and even syncs effortlessly with QuickBooks for hassle-free accounting. Go to Milwaukee Mafia/IL now because your success deserves efficient inventory management. Happy selling.
You're listening to Milwaukee Mafia, your podcast dose of Wisconsin Mafia and true crime history.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Milwaukee Mafia podcast. I'm Eric.
I'm Gavin.
Gavin,
Yeah.
what do you got for us today?
Today we're going to be talking about garbage.
We're going back to garbage?
We're going back to garbage.
Oh my god. So it just never dies, man. The Mafia is constantly tied to garbage.
No, we're re-recording our garbage episode.
Oh, well, well, you kind of ruined that then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay, we're re-recording an episode that we previously had lost. So
Yeah.
All right. Well, then take her away with the garbage.
All right. So yeah, I want to be clear about this for people. If you've listened for a long time and you're listening to this now, you've already heard this. Like, my notes are almost exactly what they used to be. But for you who are new to the podcast, relatively new, you would not have heard this. We had to toss some episodes for audio quality issues. So it's just a handful, but we're going to go back and we're going to restore them, which unfortunately we have to do from scratch. But that's okay. That's all right.
It's all part of the learning process.
All part of it. And for this one, we're going to talk about early garbage collection in Milwaukee. It's not Mafia specific, but it is like the first half of our garbage story. You need to understand the background to really understand the Mafia part of the garbage.
So do we have to redo both the garbage episodes?
They are both on the redo list. Yes.
Wow. All right, I do recall this episode. So without further ado, let's hear about some garbage.
Yeah. So garbage has always, just a fact. Just a fact. There's always things left over, and also included in garbage, which you don't normally think about as garbage, but waste, human waste, animal waste. You don't think of that as garbage, but it is. It's a waste product. It's a leftover thing, and you got to get rid of all these things. And originally, but way back in the pioneer days, you didn't have that much stuff. I mean, you had to dig your outhouse hole or what. But beyond that, you didn't have a lot of packaging on goods. You bought things, in brown paper wrapping, and you'd have your pigs and stuff out back, and they eat up a lot of the stuff. So garbage really wasn't a big deal for a very, very long time. But as cities get bigger and become more industrialized, you get more packaging, you get more pre-made goods that just do not break down as well. And along with that, the move was kind of away from pigs, because as the city gets bigger, not everybody can have a pig in their apartment. That doesn't make any sense. But you still need a horse,
Mm-hmm.
because before you have a car, you have a horse.
Right.
So it's now you got more people packed into one building, but they all need a horse. So
horses create waste.
Horses create waste. So you've got that. You've got more waste being made. You've got fewer pigs to get rid of the waste. And to be clear, the pigs are not eating horse poop, but the food waste isn't getting rid of that way. So it is getting worse. And what are you going to do? So we started thinking about ways to do it. You got landfills, you got dumps, and you got incinerators. Those are the three ways you get rid of waste.
And just before you really go into this story,
yeah,
what era are we talking about right now? Roughly?
Late 1800s.
Okay, so
late
very early on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so one thing that people would do at this point in time, because there are no landfills or dumps or incinerators in Milwaukee from the late 1800s, there just aren't. So people would burn it in the street, they dump it in the river. Some things they would throw in the street, and there were children who were called swill children, which is, I'm sure they loved being called that. But they were children who would go around and they would collect things out of the trash, like old rags and things like that, and use them for whatever. They would collect ash because ash could be, and a lot of people had ash because they were burning coal and everything else. They'd collect ash and they could turn that into soaps and things like that. So you never know. Like a lot of things you can use waste for if you're really creative.
And were these kids hired by somebody to collect this stuff for them, or was
No.
this a thing they were just being entrepreneur and thinking, okay, I can do that, collect all this crap and make it into this and sell it?
Definitely, some of them were entrepreneurs. Some of them were. It was just necessity. Like their families were that poor that the kids would have to go out and collect anything they could. So yeah, by the time 1875, it is bad. Every time it rained, the waste would mix with mud. The streets weren't paved, so the streets all became a mix of mud and horse poop, and it was terrible. It's getting really bad. 1875, they estimated, I don't know where they got these numbers, but they estimated that horse poop in Milwaukee was up to 25 tons a day, which is a ridiculous amount.
At this point, they have to be doing something with it, right? They must have a system at this point. If they're producing 25 tons a day.
Yeah.
So what is that what we're going into, or what is
we're leading into it, right?
Okay.
At first, their plan, what they can't like just dump in the river, they haul out into the countryside. Now, I don't know if horse manure can be used for farming purposes or not. I imagine it probably could.
Yeah, I'm sure it can.
But even if it couldn't, like just to get it out of the city limits, we just haul it out and dump it outside the city limits. Deal with it later. So there's that. Around this time, also there used to be what was called the miasmic theory of disease, which today we know is nonsense.
Okay.
But before people knew about germs and that sort of thing, they thought that like you could get sick from bad smells. So everyone's like terrified that they're going to get sick. And a lot of them do get sick. There's a lot of terrible diseases still going around at this time, but it isn't caused by the bad smells. It's just a coincidence that
it's caused by crawling around probably in feces.
Yeah.
But which also happens to cause bad smells.
Yes. So the health commissioner at the time, he says, okay, we need to actually use some city money, get something together to collect all this waste and get it out of here. And so he gets that set up. The problem is, at this time, Milwaukee was kind of run ward by ward. And I don't think it's that way anymore. But at that time, the head of each ward in Milwaukee had some level of authority.
Okay.
So the city commissioner, health commissioner, could propose this, but each ward had to approve it.
Okay.
And most of them didn't.
Okay.
Some of them did. 5 out of the 13 wards at the time agreed to it.
Okay.
But within 3 years, the program collapsed because turns out it's not really financially feasible if not everybody's participating.
Right.
So that it did not work very well. 1878, there's a very hot summer. Smells reach the all-time high. So the Common Council, the City Council, they say, okay, the problem was we let each ward make their own decisions. That was the problem. This time, we're not going to have the wards do it. We're going to go over their heads, and we're just going to get bids from companies who want to do this and make it a city thing. Screw the wards. We're doing it our own way. They weren't able to actually get that into effect until 1886. So it took them, 8 years?
Holy cow.
Before they could finally get that program up and running. Now,
do you have any idea at this point in time? Like you said, they went above the wards.
Yeah.
So did the city itself control the money and disperse it to the wards, or like did the cities have to? You understand?
I definitely don't know how tax collecting worked. Yeah. I assumed the fact that wards had some level of control over their individual areas, that the taxes must have been dispersed accordingly. But I have no idea. I do not know how that was determined or what was even taxed. I don't know. I don't really know.
Like where the revenue was even coming from is probably...
Right.
It's not going to be the way it is today, obviously.
Right.
So.
I mean, I'm so unfamiliar with what the process was for taxing people in the 1800s. I don't even have a good guess. So I'm sorry to the listeners that I don't, but that's, I mean, anything that you could think of today that we would tax, I don't know that they even would have.
Tax.
Yeah.
Then, yeah.
I mean, there's no gas tax because they're not using gas. So I don't know. I don't know what the taxes are, where the taxes are coming from. So anyway, they get that up and going. Apparently, there was some real problems with the original people they contracted. They didn't show up every time they were supposed to. Like, you know, I don't know what the schedule was at the time, but like today, if your garbage day is Wednesday, they didn't show up every Wednesday like they should have. And apparently some of them cut corners instead of taking it where they were supposed to take it. They'd find empty lots like in the middle of the route and just dump it back out in the middle of in an empty lot. You know, so then their truck would be empty and they could start again without having to go all the way back to wherever.
I can see that why they would do that, but yeah, that's gross.
Some really shady stuff. So finally, we got to move to a new system. This is not working. And not only that, at this point in time, the suburbs are also getting more, you know, they're formed, they're stronger. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't just take it outside the city limits and dump it anymore because there's places that actually don't want it.
Yeah. You're now probably dumping it in somebody's front yard, basically. Or...
Right. Right. It reaches a point where not everything outside of Milwaukee is a farm field. There's actually other towns out there. So they don't like it. So they're like, okay, what do we do now? We're going to burn it. We're going to burn everything. And that's what they did. They set up a thing called the Phoenix Garbage Cremator.
I love the name.
Yes. I mean, it's you know, you already got Phoenix in the name. You got this flaming bird, but then you got cremator on it. Like, we're not joking around here. This is what we're going to do. So they set that up. The city paid for it. While they were waiting, between the time that the suburbs didn't want it and the time the cremator was up and running, they just started dumping everything in Lake Michigan directly.
Oh, man.
Yeah. This wasn't great. And apparently, the dumping site was up current from the water intake. So a lot of people would turn on their home tap and strange things would come out of their home tap. Oh, my
God, that is so gross.
Yeah. So not great. Not great. Once the incinerator was up and running, that stopped, but then it switched to a new problem because of where it was positioned. It was on the west side of the city. And apparently, they didn't take things into account as far as the wind direction that was most common. And this is a newspaper quote. It resulted in a killing odor with the strength enough to paralyze the man in the moon. You know, interesting phrasing of the time. But, but, you know, obviously the implication here is that the smell from the incinerator is so bad you could smell it from the moon. It's bad.
So probably, at this point, they probably didn't even do any good with the problem. I mean, I guess less people are getting sick at this point.
Yes.
But they just can't stand the smell of their city.
They're going the right direction, but I think what's the problem is the population of Milwaukee is growing at too fast a pace to handle the level of garbage that it creates. They do some improvements on the incinerator, and it does get better. They find some ways to kind of hide that. There was a group of businessmen who came together and they called themselves the Anti-Stench Committee to come up with ideas to fix this. But the original designer of the Phoenix Garbage Cremator, he got so much hate mail that he ended up just killing himself.
Wow.
Like, he could not take the level of complaints that he got about it. I don't know that guy's name, unfortunately. So I'm sorry, guy. I don't have your name written down. But didn't go well for him. So now they get a new incinerator, and they're going to put this incinerator, this is 1890s, new incinerator in Ozaki County, 14 miles north of the city limit. So now here we go. Now we're mixing some ideas. We're taking it out of the city, and we're burning it. Mm-hmm. So this is a little bit better. We're not dumping it anymore, and we don't have to smell the burning. So it's getting out there. There was some scandal involved in this. It turned out that a number of the city council members had financial interest in this new incinerator, but despite that potential scandal, it didn't actually stop it from going through because people still thought it was such a good idea. They were like, whatever. You guys are going to make money off of it, fine. Get it out of here. So the local garbage collectors would come through 3 times a week. They would bring it out to the harbor, load it up onto a boat. The boat would then go up along the coast to Ozaki County, and they would burn it there. So that actually went fairly smooth. Some people, they would still complain about sometimes they would miss the pickups and things like that. So it wasn't perfect, but this is like we're reaching new levels of success. The incinerator plant could handle between 60 and 70 tons a day, so that was good. But with population growing soon, already in the 1890s, people in Milwaukee were throwing out 80 tons a day. So they can burn 70, people are making 80, which means every single day another 10 tons of garbage is created they can't get rid of. So, not fantastic. Okay. This goes on for some time. And then finally, in the end of the 1890s, they moved to a new system where they would build another incinerator, this one in Milwaukee, but they would couple it with a landfill. This would be the first landfill in Milwaukee. And it would be, they say it was on Erie Street. It was basically, I like to say it was basically where the Summerfest grounds are today.
Okay.
It was down in that area. And it worked really well. It actually, you could burn some of it, you could bury the rest of it, and that cut down on the stench because it just didn't burn the really stinky stuff.
Yeah.
And saved taxpayers money because there was less hauling involved. It created jobs because it wasn't a private thing anymore. Now it actually was becoming a city thing where you'd have to go through the city to become like a garbage collector and disposal. So things seemed to be going in the right direction. Everything was up and running and burning by 1902. So that was fantastic. The Erie Street garbage incineration plant was fully operational to its peak by 1910 and stayed that way until 1955. So that
holy cow!
So that thing lasted a while, and what the health commissioner would come back, do tests, and things were better. Like the hygiene was strong. The things weren't as polluted. Construction in the area seemed good. Everything was strong. So it was all fantastic. So yeah, that's what's leading us up to the early 1900s in the world of garbage. So a little sneak peek on the second half is, for those who don't know, Erie Street is, I don't know if it was in the Third Ward, but it's like right on the edge of the Third Ward.
Okay.
And the Third Ward, of course, is where all the Sicilians have settled in Milwaukee. So it makes them great candidates for the garbage job because they don't live very far from the incinerator, and also being the new kids on the block, being the new immigrants, because early 1900s is really when the bulk of the Sicilians came to Milwaukee, or the United States for that matter. But when they came to Milwaukee, these are the jobs that were available. I don't know what the pay was, but certainly it's not a prestigious job. Mm-hmm. Going around with a horse and a cart picking up people's garbage is not something most people want to do. Mm-hmm. So when you're the new person, the new immigrant, those jobs really become, they go your direction. You don't get the super nice jobs.
Yeah.
So it all times out really well, where suddenly there's just tons and tons of garbage carrier jobs or garbage burner jobs, and we've got hundreds, if not thousands, of people who now need jobs. So it times out really well for them.
And that can also lead to the Sicilians, or particularly the Sicilians that are in the Mafia.
Yes.
Maybe getting involved in some corruption with that, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's where we're going to go in the next episode, I assume.
That is the second part. But yeah, for this first part, I just wanted to give a very broad overview of how garbage and garbage disposal came to be. It's actually a topic I find super fascinating. We breeze through it here, but I find that amazing because we do see that Milwaukee, is just an example. Like, you can see that anywhere that has a population boom, mm-hmm. It's a problem.
Well, and that's what the biggest thing that I take from this story is, like, because I assume that Milwaukee, yeah, they were probably in a population boom at the time, mm-hmm. but it couldn't have been anything compared to, say, somebody like New York or Chicago or something. And I just can't imagine. I mean, if Milwaukee's trash problem got this bad, can you imagine what those other cities must have been like? I mean, it must have just been disgusting.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I don't really know anything about that, but that's what I find interesting though. It's just we completely changed our lifestyle of, everything has a place to suddenly every day we've got waste. And we got to get rid of it, and we have more people. And nobody wants it. I mean, we're recording this in the Appleton area. We're at what we call the Fox Cities. And I mean, that's an ongoing thing. Like, we've got the room for the landfills. Like, it's not like we're short on space, but nobody wants it. Yeah. Nobody wants the landfill
filled by them or whatever. Yeah, totally. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, it is a very interesting topic. And I would actually love to hear about, like, how this compares. Maybe Chicago was like, their people were way smarter about this. And
maybe.
They handled it much better.
Maybe.
But I'm feeling like, what did you say, 25 tons of garbage at one point in time?
That was 25 tons of horse manure.
Yeah, just horse manure.
Yeah.
So, which I'm going to guess was probably at that point in time the biggest culprit of trash.
I think that's probably a safe bet. Yeah.
But still, I mean, if Milwaukee's at 25 tons in a day,
yeah,
I can't imagine what these other cities were at.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
Wow.
And I imagine that Chicago could probably have handled it in a similar way, because I mean, now Chicago is like, it's dense city for miles as far as the eye can see. But it wasn't always that way. I mean, right. there used to actually be suburbs in Chicago, not just an endless strip mall for 50 miles. But New York, I don't know. Not that I know much about New York, but I bet you New York pretty much always being a dense place.
Yeah, that's very true. So yeah, it's just crazy. That is a crazy thing to think about.
Yeah.
So we will be back, I guess, next week with the Mafia side of how they managed to sneak into this trash business and try to extort money from it, I guess. Is that what happens? Or I don't remember.
Yeah. See, we got to re-record, but you don't remember. So it's like we're doing it all over again.
Yeah. And I will also say, for anybody, if anybody is listening to this for the second time, the way I remember it, the way you told the story this time, way better than the first time. I found it. I don't remember anything being. I remember leaving the first time thinking, God, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
And then, but this one there was way more information involved in it, in truly talking about the trash.
Cool.
So if you're
that
listening,
just means we're learning.
Yeah.
We know how to deliver the story.
Kind of makes me think we got better at podcasting.
Yeah, maybe we did.
First recorded this episode.
Maybe we did. So people will get to the end of this re-recorded stretch and they'll go back to like how we used to do it. They're like, oh.
Yeah, or they're going to be listening from the beginning and then they're going to be like, wow. They're going to be like, listen to the previous episode and then be like, what just happened? They got so much better at it than...
Yeah. Well, we're not re-recording things unless we have to. So these just have to be a stretch of this new version. Sorry.
So, all right. Well, that'll wrap this episode up. So we will be back at this time probably next week with the next episode. So, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in to the Milwaukee Mafia podcast. Join us next time for another look back at Wisconsin Mafia and true crime history.
Hey, Podcast Fam, Eric here. And if you're an affiliate marketer or looking to monetize your online presence, you need to know about ShareASale.com. ShareASale is not just an affiliate network. It's your gateway to a world of opportunities. With thousands of high-paying affiliate programs across various niches, ShareASale connects you with top brands ready to collaborate with content creators like you. Imagine earning commissions for simply sharing products you love. Whether you're into fashion, tech, or lifestyle, ShareASale has got a partnership waiting for you. Ready to turn your passion into profits? Head over to MilwaukeeMafia.com/ShareASale and sign up today. It's free, it's easy, and it's your ticket to unlocking a new revenue stream for your business.